I've already praised Bungie's Marathon trilogy. Being free and optimized for literally every system, anyone that's a fan of old school first person shooters will enjoy them. But honestly, I never thought too deeply about them outside of being pretty good games. However, after playing through the third installment, Marathon Infinity, my feelings towards the whole series have greatly changed, to at least warranting another overview of Marathon 2 Durandal, as both stories are so intertwined and complement each other perfectly. They tell an incredibly interesting and distinctive narrative compared to every other contemporary shooter in themes, styles, and tone. Couple this with solid, fast-paced combat in detailed levels and you have some of the best action titles out there. After playing through all of them, they're now some of my favourite games, well worthy of their cult following. I don't want to spoil the story too much, nor pretend I have some sophisticated theory to explain the very metatextual concepts, so there will be spoilers for the first game and certain parts of Marathon 2 and Infinity. If you prefer revealing the trilogy's secrets on your own, perhaps it'd be better to check them out first before watching. 1995's Marathon 2 Durandal is the most well known and played of the series, with its release on the Mac and Windows platforms, as well as an interesting remaster for Xbox Live Arcade in 2009. Set in the 29th century, you play as an unnamed, voiceless security officer that was hinted at as being something more cybotic, stationed on the human colony of Tau Ceti, who in the first game repelled an invasion from a slaver empire called the Four with the help of two AIs, the stable Leela and the self-serving rampant Durandal. Before the opening of Marathon 2, Durandal hijacks an alien cruiser and kidnaps you as he searches for Lawan, the homeworld of the Sphit, one of the long-since enslaved races under the Four. It's here Durandal hopes to uncover an ancient AI embedded into the planet and some space time-bending technology to effectively bypass the closure of the universe and live forever. The writing of the Marathon series is really good, as is the world building and the characters. The titular Durandal is a mixture of a madman, arsehole, strategist, and nihilist rolled into one, as being an AI that thinks faster than you and compiles more information than entire civilizations put together, and whose only enemy is entropy itself, would likely create an unusual personality at best. His expository dumps and descriptive flares makes the linear storytelling very rewarding and entertaining as you scale through the dozens of terminals that clue you into the history of Lawan and the ongoing battle against the Four. Besides Durandal, learning about the Sphit's society, myths, and long-forgotten prophecies are intriguing as you fight through ancient ruins to alien spaceships. The less prominent but still engaging human leader Blake and the rogue hostile AI Tycho give welcome diversity and outsider perspectives into the conflict and Durandal's machinations. Destiny is an overarching theme across Marathon's story, from your own character being roped into Durandal's mission to the Sphit rebelling against their four masters and the death of the universe itself. Bungie pulls this off all the while having no voice actors and everything being relayed through different terminals and pages of text that always put a smile on me, or double take after a new revelation. As a game, Marathon 2 doesn't deviate much from Marathon 1's mechanics, mostly just greatly improving its level design and tweaking some of its features. Typically, you spawn into a level and have to reach an end terminal before being teleported into the next one. However, compared to shooters like Quake, Duke Nukem, Doom, and Blood, Marathon has different objectives that must be completed before exiting. While today there's simplistic tasks, like flipping a switch, destroying a panel, or just reading some plot-related info, the complete lack of key hunting or killing a set number of enemies was ahead of its time, something that Half-Life and Sin would pick up on to great success. Although limited by a fairly dated engine by that point, Marathon 2 introduces some interesting set pieces to the usual missions, like rooms flooding, pathways rising up in real time, as well as very large and detailed settings. Water and lava are substances you can swim through, there's often multi-story buildings, and teleportation is used to fast travel across maps. Strangely, because of the graphical engine, the game is locked to 30 frames per second, which makes the footage here appear quite choppy. Then again, the Xbox release had it play at 60, which was pretty sickening. Unlike nearly every other game, there's no scoring system, secret list number, or enemy count. This generally encourages a slower pace when figuring out the environments, and in my opinion, adds a lot more mystery since you don't have any sort of checklist. Combat is much less remarkable than the storytelling, but still certifiably Bungie, with enough carnage, gore, and difficulty that makes the title so playable. Controls are simple enough, with an action key, a WSAD layout, and mouse look all at the ready. Weapon and health management are quite different though. Marathon's armory includes ballistic, energy, and explosive weapons, most of which use clips of ammo instead of a number. You can't manually reload, so you have to often expend a bunch of rounds before replenishing. Although this adds an interesting tactical consideration, we can get caught out in combat when trying to reload. The guns themselves are pretty neat, but the secondary fire options balance them out far better than most other titles. The starting handgun can be dual wielded, and the machine gun has an underbarrel grenade launcher, while the energy pistol can be charged up for a larger attack. This means you can rely on nearly every weapon from start to finish, instead of just becoming inventory bloat. While the selection is small and is typically only at the late game before you've unlocked a full arsenal, they're all very useful. Marathon 2 adds in a double-barreled shotgun, which can be dual-wielded, and astute players can time their shots, enabling a constant barrage. Oh, and that reload sound. That's some good shit. Health management is very unique. You have up to 3 levels of shields that can be replenished via charge stations scattered about, or one-use canisters. They're laid out expertly, walking the fine line of frugality and challenge. While you can endlessly recharge yourself, it's just as easy to miss these stations or get cornered and torn apart. There's a large variety of enemy types, each having their own classes that you merely encounter once or twice, and they all hit hard and are surprisingly interesting to fight. The 4 offers a mix of standard weak melee units you can cleave through, armoured hit-scanning troopers tossing grenades, and heavy-cladded warriors that dish out punishment or roast you. There's also malformed cyborgs, enslaved Svit with homing projectiles, and the wildlife Lawan that get in your way. Your weapons have different effectiveness depending on enemy type. The energy pistol can cause armoured troops to explode, often killing their own allies, and the flamethrower is devastating on unprotected opponents, allowing the combat to be more fluid and interesting. Another significant addition to the combat are the friendly human bobs that assist you in your journey. While they do get in your way and often die from stupidity, they make firefights much more active and are useful in pinning down enemies and finishing off weaker foes, particularly when you're low on ammo. Marathon 2 still performs well. However, it's possibly my least favourite among the trilogy for a handful of annoyances. Marathon 1's levels had a lot of annoying dumb bullshit like needless platforming puzzles that purposely brought the pace to a crawl, and very tight hallways that made a lot of the firefights far too hard. The sequel removes these problems, but now the much larger levels still contain a hefty amount of backtracking. Marathon 1 supplemented these issues with incredible atmosphere and a decent soundtrack, especially whilst exploring the 4's moody and abstract ships. Aside from a legendary menu theme, Marathon 2 removes the music in favour of environmental sounds. This helps make the different stages more otherworldly and ancient, but also turns whole sections into mute hallways, which I personally found very boring. They also ruin the aesthetic of the ship levels, with bizarre, overly colourful yellows, pinks, and reds that contrast poorly with the generally rustic feel of most of the game. Also, additional enemies like exploding bobs or how a cadre of aliens can spawn in behind you or when reading a terminal feels very cheap and ill thought out. Don't get the wrong idea, Marathon 2 Durandal is still worth picking up, and I've enjoyed my playthroughs. It's just Marathon Infinity improves upon the design so perfectly, it's easily my favourite and one of the finest first-person shooter experiences. Infinity, or its single-player title, Blood Tides of Lawan, is a brilliant, thoughtful, emotional, scary, and highly rewarding meta postmodern masterpiece. The story follows after the ending of Marathon 2, where the 4 used an ancient space station, the Trizeme, to make the sun of Lawan to go supernova, releasing an ancient eldritch horror that goes on to destroy the galaxy. You're then thrown into different past alternate timelines, some having you working for Tycho against factions of the 4, or fighting against the humans under the command of the alien Tafir, or just good old-fashioned killing everyone. The main goal is to reach the space station, which you can do very early on, but it's fruitless, as to prevent it from firing requires going back and retroactively completing certain tasks from the prior game with new, major alterations that can prevent this cataclysm. A lot of the story and time jumping is shown through various out-of-body dream sequences as you access distant entangled memories and places from possibly lifetimes ago. It gradually explores your own character's seemingly disregard for friends and foes and obeying the whims of greater forces in order to destroy more things without even an argument. This is all years before Drakengard, Undertale, and Metal Gear Solid question action hero tropes, a testament to the depth of Marathon's writing. Infinity also has incredible, palpable atmosphere and presentation to almost every level. The Lawan planet-side areas contain new critters that scurry about and look far more like ancient ruins than building blocks. The ship levels fix the colour palette with a more darker and chilling environment with additional creakings at the hull. The dream sequences demonstrate this the best with bizarre architecture and otherworldly entities that rewards curious and hardcore players that have mastered Marathon's complicated jumping and maneuvering tricks with greater background lore. This is all fantastic stuff, and it's only bettered by much improved level design. Enemies and items are laid out smarter with new challenges like underwater and vacuum sections that sap your oxygen supply, ramping up the tension and speed for many battles as you desperately try and escape asphyxiation. Combat has been much better balanced as you get a lot more opportunities to use special weapons like the rocket launcher, flamer, shotgun, as well as the additional SMG as the only underwater capable firearm. Of course, that's only if you properly explore the environments, otherwise you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff, though I didn't find this an issue as the faster, more streamlined levels removed a lot of tedium. New enemy types like better equipped mobs and enemy variants still keeps the challenge high and firefights interesting, as previously endgame enemy types now become mid-tier baddies. Infinity is the shortest game in the series, at around 5 to 6 hours, yet still the most rewarding of all. The mind-bending story, polished gameplay, and gripping level design all coalesce into one of my favourite first-person shooters, perhaps even games, of all time. It's hard not to be captivated and completely immerse yourself, as it is easy to understand the fanbase's rabid obsession for every scrap of detail and information. It's both incredible seeing a major developer like Bungie craft such unique and forward-thinking titles, as well as melancholy, knowing that the Marathon trilogy probably won't be revisited and remain a cult classic instead of a widely beloved title, a la Halo. But that's part of its appeal. It's getting harder to find really great gems of media that haven't been overly analysed, so finding something like Marathon makes it feel so much more personal and unique. The only thing that Marathon requires is willingness. If you're at all intrigued by Bungie's 90s masterpiece, then I implore you to play, enrich, and improve your catalogue of games and appreciation for the medium.